Half Magic Beauty just came out with 4 new single shadows, and I've really been wanting to make a dedicated video on their shadows for some time, so I thought this was a great opportunity. I actually had no idea these were coming out, though I did feel like they were going to continue to add shades to this range. And I also feel like they're kind of updating the formula of these to be sparklier and the formula to be more approachable to more people, which I think is really great. At the time that I'm making this video, these shades are available at Ulta, and I do believe they'll be more widely available soon, definitely on the Half Magic site, as well as the other places they typically sell their products. I will have everything linked. Thank you so much if you use my affiliate links. It really does help my channel. I'm going to do some detailed hand and eye swatches and a look at the end incorporating the new shades, so let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, starting off with the new shades, first we have Spiral Baby, and this one was the one I was probably most excited about because, as many of you know, I particularly love iridescent shadows. To my knowledge, this is also the first time that Half Magic is doing an iridescent shadow, though they have done some iridescent glitter pucks, so I will include some comparison swatches at the end. Spiral Baby is what I would consider a blue-purple shifting iridescent shade. So basically, my favorite type of shift. Of course, you can use a shade like this all over the lid, but you can also use it on the inner corner and even as a cheek highlight. Softcore Peach is what I would describe pretty much as a champagne, but it does have a little bit of a peachy undertone to it. It has primarily golden and silver sparkles throughout. I do want to mention something about the formula of these shadows. They're all very sparkly, and they have a drier feel to them than some of their OG shades like Blushing Lizard. It's definitely a formula I think many people will find to be approachable, especially even with people that have hooded lids. Alright, the next shade we have is Pixie Problems, and this is probably my second favorite shade behind Spiral Baby, of course, and this is described as a soft lilac. I do feel like there's a hint of taupe in this one. This particular shade is totally the type of shade I enjoy using as a one-and-done shadow on an everyday basis, or as a shimmer incorporated into a cool-toned smoky eye. The last of the new shades is called Inherited This. This shade is such a great summery warm-toned shimmer. It has a touch of copper, it's got a touch of orange, it's got a touch of gold. And I'm happy to see that they incorporated such a warm-toned shade into the mix, especially because the other 3 are cool-toned. In fact, now that I mentioned that, I am still waiting for them to do a warm-toned glitter puck shade. Okay, here's what all 4 of the new shades look like swatched in the back of my hand. Now we're going to get into doing some eye swatches with the older shades as well. And I do believe that all of these shades are currently available. The first of the older shades is called Sparkle Puff. This shade is described as being an icy champagne with predominantly blue sparkles in it. I think you can best see those sparkles when I do the swatch in my hand. I do have all the shades swatched together later, but in comparison to Softcore Peach, this one is definitely icier toned and lighter. This shade was part of the recent shade extension at the end of 2025 and was the first launch that I felt like I could tell a difference with the formula being a little bit drier than their OG shades. The next shade we have is Possessed Pearl, and this shade is described as an icy taupe, and it's got predominantly cool icy sparkles throughout. I feel like their single shadow range has so many options when it comes to sparkly neutrals with a twist. Okay, the next shade we have is Pretty Robot, which is a new to me shadow. It's described as a shimmer lilac pink. And I think you'll be able to see right away that the texture and finish of this shade is different from the ones that I've just shown. This shade definitely has more of a sheen to it. It looks like it's a duochrome. There is a little bit of a squish to it in the pan. From the pictures and swatches that I've seen, it reminds me of what Elven Things looks like in terms of its texture and finish. That happens to be a shade that I don't have. The next shade we have is Tickle Spell. This is described as an icy gold with silver sparkle. definitely their only gold shade in the range. And the silver sparkles in this one definitely keep it looking a little bit more on the cool side. So this shade, I would say undertone wise, is very different from Inherited This, which is definitely much warmer toned. All right, next we have Half Magic's most vibrant single shadow in my opinion, and this is the shade Mermacculate. When this shade came out, I want to say that it was limited edition, so I'm really happy to see that it's part of the permanent lineup. It's described as a duochrome aqua with lime green reflex, and you can see how incredibly sparkly this one is. If you're looking for a standout teal shimmer, Mermacculate is definitely that. Okay, these last three shades are probably my favorites because, well, I love blue. And in my opinion, all three of these shades are what I would describe as quite wearable blues. First, we have the shade Unicorncore, which is described as an icy blue with silver reflex. And something I want to mention as I'm swatching it is that the formula of these last three shadows is a little bit more kind of emollient in the pan. I don't experience creasing with it, but I feel like some people may. I kind of want to pick up a new pan though, just to see if they're updating the formula even of the older shades. If you know the answer to that, let us know in the comments. Next shade we have is probably Half Magic's most iconic single shadow. I know they've said that this is their best-selling shade, and I'm sure that's still the case. This, of course, is Blushing Lizard, and this is a blue-brown duochrome. It's described as being a mauve taupe in its base, and it has blue shift and sparkle. It's no surprise to many of you because I've talked about these kind of shadows extensively, and I have a whole video on blue-brown duochromes. I love these type of shades. The last single shadow I have from Half Magic is Electric Butterfly, and Electric Butterfly is described as being a lavender in its base with blue sparkle and shift. It's definitely giving the vibes of Blushing Lizard, though I do feel like this one reads a little bit more blue and a little bit more cool toned in general because it has that lavender base rather than that mauvey taupe base that Blushing Lizard has. Here is what all of the shades I just talked about, swatched and tried on, look like swatched my arm. And for reference, all of the labels are from the wrist down. And I know I did a short on this comparison, but I'm going to just really quickly show you some side-by-side swatches that may help you out. Looking at the limited edition Glitter Puck in Feel Something compared to Spiral Baby. This is Feel Something, which is my favorite glitter puck, but it's actually, as I mentioned, limited edition. It's part of the Euphoria collection, and it is what I would describe as an iridescent with silver, blue, and purple sparkles. Glitter Puck's formula is very unique. You have a water-based glitter that doesn't have fallout when it's applied, and it can be applied all over the body. Here again is Spiral Baby, and as I mentioned before, this is an iridescent that has predominantly a blue-purple shift. Here is what the two shades look like swatched side by side. You can tell that Glitter Puck has larger sparkle particles, and in general that the density of the sparkles is a little bit greater. I also feel like Feel Something has a bit more purple in it as well. In the shot I have Feel Something, Spiral Baby, and Princess Ghost. You can see that Princess Ghost has blue and silver but doesn't have purple like the other two shades. And Princess Ghost is a glitter puck that's a part of the permanent lineup. All right, now I want to go ahead and dive into doing a bronzy summer look using mostly Half Magic products and definitely using the new eyeshadows. I did my base and I also lined my lips. I used the KJH Precision Sculpture Stilo. They actually came out with some new shades recently, and I've been absolutely loving using these. These are just such an easy blurred lip liner to throw on. You can also use them as eyeliner as well. But here is what the shade that I lined my lips looks like swatched in the back of my hand. This is the shade Engrave. And I really want to use this gloss Blushing Lizard because I feel like it's kind of like a neutrals with a twist gloss, and it'll go with a lot of the shadows that I'm using. I love that they decided to make this into a gloss. I feel like more brands should make their viral eyeshadows into glosses. And just to remind you what it looks like swatched, it kind of is like a brown with blue and green sparkles in it. For my blush, I'm going to use the Cheek Fluff in the shade Magic Brownie. This is also my favorite blush shade from the brand. It's like the perfect kind of sunburnt blush on me. It looks brown in the pan, but it does have kind of like a little bit of a pinky red undertone to it. And these have a cream to powder formula, so I actually think they apply quite nicely with your finger. Sometimes what I do is I apply it with my finger and then I go in with a brush, and I use this brush quite a bit. It is my favorite blush brush at the moment because it's, it gives a little bit of precision, and I just find these brushes to be really good in general. This is from Fantasy Cosmetica. All right, and here is what Magic Brownie looks like applied to both cheeks. For my highlighter, I'm going to use my favorite from Half Magic. This is Beam Trap. I've talked about this one quite a few times as well. It's kind of like a champagne on this side and a bronzy shade on this side. You can kind of like mix it to make your perfect shade. This is a cream formula. And, I just like to, again, kind of just tap this on to the cheekbone. Just has a very kind of natural finish on the skin. Just a really pretty day-to-day highlight. Hopefully that is picking up on camera. All right, now on to eyeshadow. I'm going to start off by using this neutral matte palette from Viseart. I have talked about this palette several times before, and I also want to mention that it is on sale right now. I believe it's 50% off on the site, and you can stack codes as well. But the matte formula from Viseart, you just can't go wrong. And also because Half Magic doesn't have a lot of matte shadows, I thought this would be good to use. I'm going to dip into this shade here. I don't see any shade names on the palette, but I think this will be, you just need the smallest amount. They're so pigmented, but I just want a little bit of something before I go in with the shimmers. Taking a little bit on sort of flatter brush and just sweeping that along the lower lash line. I'm just going to deepen up the outer corner with this rich kind of warm toned brown matte. Cleaned off my brush, and now I'm just going to soften up around the edges. Priming my lids with a little bit of the Clionadh and Bad to the Brow shimmer primer. Okay, I do want to use multiple shades. I think I'm going to go in first with the shade Pixie Problems. And I'm just going to, you could use a brush with these, I'm sure, but I just really like applying shimmers with my finger a lot of the time. I love that impact. I'm just putting it mostly on the inner portion of the lid. I really love that this shade has like a little bit of taupe in it as well. It's not just a straight up lilac, but look how sparkly that is. And then the next shade I'm going to dip into is Inherited This, and I'm kind of excited to mix warm and cool tones for this look. This is what it looks like again in the pan. This is definitely like the warmest toned new shade that they're coming out with, or that they just came out with. And I'm just going to tap that onto kind of the middle portion of the lid. and blend that into that deep brown matte in the outer corner. Because, you know, these shimmers have a little bit of sheerness to them. I mean, you can wear them opaque, but you can also kind of like sheer them out a little bit. They layer well over each other and over matte shadows. Here is how those two shimmers are looking like applied together. Now I'm going to go in with the highlighting shade, of course. I love an iridescent. This is Spiral Baby. So this is that blue purple iridescent. Here's what it looks like on my fingertip. I'm going to go ahead and add it to the brow bone. I'm going to try to take just the smallest amount and put that on the inner corner. And then just take a little bit and maybe put that right on the center of the lid as well. Okay, and for the rest of my eye look, I'm actually going to use Half Magic products. They came out with new eyeliners recently. This is the Velvet Flick eyeliner that can be used for your wing and for your waterline, and this is the shade Wolf Mood. So I don't usually use liners that have this shape, so I'm kind of curious, but this is going to be a first impression. From my swatch experience, like these apply very, very easily. Is kind of like a click up. I probably didn't need to click it up that much. And on me, like this is definitely a soft brown liner, so you may not see that very easily, but I do feel like that applied easily to the waterline. It's just not my typical shape for eyeliner that I use. Okay, I don't know if the liner is picking up on camera, but I actually think that this is a really pretty kind of softer liner shade to use for the waterline, especially when I'm just going for something a little bit more subtle. And I did put a little bit on the upper lash line as well. For my mascara, I'm going to use one of my favorite mascaras. This is actually a tubing mascara. I think for a while this one was my favorite, though it has been replaced with Urban Decay for that #1 spot, but I think that this one sits in #2. This is a really, really good tubing mascara, and what I love about this mascara, like the Urban Decay, is that it comes in a bunch of really fun shades. I still think that for most lines, the black shade performs the best. The black and the brown shades perform the best, but the colorful mascaras in their line are also really solid. All right, and here is the completed look. All right, now that I've had a chance to do some detailed swatches of all the new single shadows from Half Magic as well as the older ones, and I've had a chance to do a look, I want to close up with some wrap-up thoughts. So I've talked about Half Magic on my channel many, many times before. I think when it comes to mainstream brands doing sparkly makeup products, they really are doing the best. I also just think that they have a lot of super innovative products, and it's been fun to see, like, you know, Donny Davy has incorporated a lot of these products into filming Euphoria and stuff like that, so that's been a lot of fun to see as well. Specifically, these single shadows I think are really good, and I've seen improvements in the formula in terms of approachability over the past couple years. And what I mean by that is that some of the OG shades I felt like had some kind of squishiness to them, which I don't mind. I don't get really creasing with those shades, but I had heard that some people did, and I find that the newer shades last year and this year don't have that, and so I think that they are going to be more approachable to more people. I personally like the compostable packaging. I like that it's still durable, but the fact that, you know, it can be easily recycled, and that these can be easily popped out and put into a magnetic palette. My favorite shade was the iridescent. I would absolutely love to see that they continue to add more iridescence to the range and more colorful shades in general. I think their most colorful shade is Mermacculate, and they really do neutrals with a twist super well. But I would love to know what you think. Have you tried this formula? I do want to mention that Ulta does really good sales when it comes to Half Magic, so if you didn't want to pick these up at the $15 price point, it may be worth waiting for one of their bigger sales. And then of course Black Friday is going to be, here before you know it. So just something to keep in mind. I would love to know what you think of these new shades and if you've tried this formula in general or if it's been on your wish list. If you made it to the end of my video, I would love it if you left me a butterfly emoji and just a comment in general. As always, I really hope you found my video helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!